What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about a topic that's super important to a lot of you guys, and that's how to rank up fast in Fortnite Chapter 5 Season 4. And as every season is, rank is a reset, and everybody's always back on that grind to get to Unreal, or even to get to Unreal for the first time if you haven't made it there yet. So basically, I'm going to be giving you guys all the tips and the game modes you need to play to basically rank up fast and become an absolute demon in rank. Now, before we get into the video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you're new to keep seeing awesome content like this because I do post often. And also, if you guys can go ahead and use my code in the item shop, it does help out a ton. Now, without further ado, let's get straight into this video. Okay, the first topic I want to talk about is the game modes. So I'm going to break this down quickly. So if you know that you have some good teammates around you, like people that you communicate well with, you guys listen to each other, you guys pretty much perform at good level with each other, then I recommend playing duos, squads, here and there. But if you realize that you have a teammate that's not as good or doesn't listen as much, etc., or you just don't even have teammates in general, then I recommend solos because for one, solos is so easy to access. Like you can just hop in a solo game without having to find a teammate. It's just you can just play as many solo games back to back. So I do recommend you guys grind out solos because that is one of the fastest ways to get all your reps in an in-game scenario. Also about the game mode. In Fortnite ranked, obviously, there is early game, mid game, and end game. Fortnite has done something where the kills are worth more points, or should I say XP, during late game. So you have to know basically how to survive to get to the late game, because in the end games, the kills basically way more points. So I'm gonna explain to you the early game, the mid game, and the late game. And the first thing about the early game is knowing where to land. It's obviously gonna matter what game mode you're playing. Like if you're playing in a duo or squad setting, you're gonna have to land in a POI or a larger scale just for you to get the loot necessary, or you might have to play more aggressive to like get more squad wipes to get the proper loot you need. But in team mode, like I said, I recommend you land on POI. The POI you choose to land at is up to you, honestly. Whatever you are comfortable with. This is where playing the game comes in because you actually have to land in these spots to see what it's like, what the loot spawn is like, what the people is like. If it's a heavy landing area, you need to know all these things just by playing the game. But now when it comes to solos, I do recommend you land in a lot of unnamed spots. Landing on POIs is going to majority of the time be highly contested and you're not going to get the proper loot. But if you do like to play aggressive and you feel confident in your game, then go for it. However way you do decide to go about it, make sure you take your time to try out a few spots and definitely learn different rotations to see what method works for you to basically survive early game and get to the end game, because that is what's most important about ranking up quickly. Another basic tip about early game is if you are going to land in a POI, or let's say a populated place, learn to become the third party. To do this, you basically have to land on the edge of the POI, and if you're basically getting contested when you land, what you want to do is pretty much wait for other players to start fighting each other, and then you kind of come in, as I like to say, be the cleanup crew. As you can see, when they're both fighting each other, they're going to be taking damage and like basically killing each other, and somebody's going to die. And when you notice a lot of shots have been let off and somebody you can take a guess is already weak, that's when you pop out of the covers and you come and clean up, which is becoming the third party, which is way more easier than just fighting somebody fresh, no damage taking, and then you're gonna have to put in more effort to kill them rather than just waiting for the third party and then you just become the cleanup crew. Alongside that, focus on looting up and getting your HP up as fast as you can, because in ranked, running out of mats or consumables early on is basically an instant death in a build mode. So having max shield prepped and finding a good loot path along the game is definitely going to set you up more for success for end game. You basically do this through trial and error, or you can go on a website called Fortnite.gg's, which basically tells you all the chest spawns, floor loot, and everything, which basically kind of helps you and gives you an advantage, which sets you up for success more. Alright, so moving on from that, the next part we're going to get into is the mid game. When it comes to the mid game in ranked, you should have a couple goals in mind. On top of that list is definitely having an optimized rotation plan and getting safe kills. When it does come to rotations in rank, I generally recommend playing the dead side of the zone, which basically is the side of the zone a lot of people don't rotate to. And what this does is it allows you to get safe fights and not get third party because there's not as many people in that area. Fundamentally, this is just playing farther away from the main circle, like the zone, and basically playing farther away from where people will be rotating in from the POI. So the dead side, you just have less stress and just kind of an easier play and easier rotation to come into the circle. But another thing about the mid game is if you do run into a fight, you should focus on ending your fights as quickly as possible. Getting stuck in a long drawn out fights, basically in mid game, is how a lot of good players die, because if you're in a fight and you're taking really long to get this kill, not only are you wasting your mats, you're gonna end up wasting your shield, which is something you need for end game for the ultimate survival rate. So if you are stuck in a fight and it's playing out too much, I recommend just running away. That's another strategy, because technically if this fight is taking longer than it should and you can't kill him, let's say in a span of 1 minute max, then honestly it might not be worth it, because you're thinking about the points in the future anyways. Also, ending a fight quickly, also you need to have really good piece control. If you're not practicing your piece control often, I recommend you play a lot of piece control maps, because there are a few out there. And definitely learning to get the jump on your opponents. And that comes from your positioning. You gotta have good positioning and knowing where to be so you don't basically get beamed off by another opponent in the open. So in order to get better at ending your fights quickly, I recommend you play a lot of 1v1 speed realistics, because this is going to replicate the in-game situation by basically forcing you to have a boxed up situation fight, because it happens pretty quickly where one player is boxed up and the other player is trying to kill you. And this will, like I said, replicate the in-game situation to teach you how to get into uncomfortable situations and basically up your IQ so you know how to get rid of an opponent faster. I'll go ahead and put up the code of speed realistic maps that I recommend you guys to try out to help you improve your fighting skills. And of course, another great way to practice fighting, which I can't leave this one out, is simply just to push for fights in ranked. So many people get caught up in the idea of ranking up that they actually perform worse because they're scared to fight. Like, I do understand there's something about, pushing every player you see and stuff. I'm not saying to do that, but that does not mean you should avoid every single fight just because you're scared. But I definitely recommend that some games you just play aggressive just so you can learn the skills on what to do in certain situations. That can only happen by getting in your in-game reps. So, because that's the fastest way to help you get better. And finally, guys, getting into the last part of the video, it goes to the notorious late game. Honestly, this part is going to be very short because late game is pretty much fundamentally similar to mid game. There are a couple things I want to mention, but in ranked, it's pretty much like a guessing game of how many people are actually going to be alive at this point at the late game. First off, in late game, you want to focus heavily on knowing your rotations. Focus on keeping your position, ideally somewhere near high ground. Best case scenario is just having high ground on the entire lobby, just so it can set you up to have some really easy kills. Also in rotation, I recommend you rotate early, just so once you get there, you can turn around and just get free shots off on people that are in shambles to get to the circle. Another key part about late game is going to be your refreshes, which is basically a kill where you get your loot, materials, and HP from. Overall though, when it comes to late games, those are pretty much the things you need to focus on. And if you follow everything we've talked about so far, then you should be in a pretty consistent spot to help you with your rank up. So now I want to wrap it up by basically telling you one of the most important things you can do in this game, which is basically watching VOD reviews. If you don't know what that is, that's basically going back into your games, like in your replays, and just rewatching your game back. And what you want to do exactly is just, while you're rewatching it, just take note of the good things you did and the bad things you did and the things you could have done better to help you for your future games. And lastly, you could do a lot of third-party VOD review, which is pretty much watching pro players play ranked and basically learning from them, learning their strategies, their rotations, how they basically play and what they do differently from you, which you can take from them to adapt into your game style. And I recommend watching a lot of people like, Ken Beams, Vibin Jivin, Asian Jeff, Peter Bot, obviously, Clicks, Canada. These are all pro players that play ranked religiously. So that's going to wrap up this video right here. We talked about a lot of things like the best game modes to play, early game, mid game, end game, VOD reviewing, and third party watching. These are all tips that are going to help you rank up fast in Fortnite Chapter 5 Season 4. So I hope you found this video helpful, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we are still growing this channel. Road to 2K right now. We've already hit the 1K mark. So make sure you like, and it's been your boy Maple, and I'm out.